Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the morning meeting. This episode's going to be so good. We say two ways, conversations like no other. This will be a conversation like no other. Sitting in for Sean today as we close the week, the 100th episode of the morning meeting season
Wow.
four, not morning meeting overall. This is season four, 100th episode. Ambassador Richard Grinnell. And of course, Dan is here. Mr. Ambassador's in California, so he's gotten up very early. Ambassador Grinnell, welcome back to Two Way and hosting this program, which you've done before, but not in a million years. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a real honor and pleasure to be with both of you.
All right. So Rick Grinnell, some people look at him as like a level of Stephen Miller anger and intensity. Other others see him like Gallagher or Carrot Top, just a laugh riot. And you never know which version we'll get. I'm hoping for the Gallagher version, just because we like a light show with peace, love, and understanding, and the presumption of grace for all. I predict you will leave here thinking Rick Grinnell's kind of a sweetheart. He's kind of a honey bunch.
Of
That's what I'm
course.
that's what I'm
I'm
predicting.
Midwestern.
Yeah, and
I'm
Midwestern.
Midwestern, man.
Anyway, if you want to participate in the conversation, we'll get to you before too long, as we always do. Please raise your hand if you're here on the YouTube on the two-way platform. If you're watching on X or on YouTube, don't put smack in the chat. It's that simple. I'm wearing some merch today, and again, I ask you to put in the chat how much you pay for this item. Just we're doing market research, and yes, when we do merch, there'll almost certainly be the product that all of you request, which is something that says "Don't put smack in the chat." So that's coming soon, and I know you want that because I hear from you every day. I'm also want to just tell you, and we'll talk more about it at the end of the show. You might think, well, this is a great episode of Two Way. This will sate me for my two-way needs for the entire Friday. You'd be wrong if you think that's where this is headed. 2 o'clock today, I'll be back with a special edition of Two Way tonight at 2 o'clock. It's nighttime somewhere when it's 2 Eastern. A great lineup of folks. I'll tell you about who later. As you know, we aim to own extremely premature conversations about the 2028 presidential campaign. So with some very great political guests, we'll talk about the 2028 presidential campaign at 2 o'clock, only on the two-way platform. It will only be on YouTube on Monday, so we don't have to do a show on Monday night. So put in your calendar 2 p.m. today. Then 4 p.m., the debut of our newest show, which you hear me be wildly enthusiastic about all our hosts. It's not phony or a coincidence. I play a role in helping find our new host with my colleagues, and they're great. And Ethan Strauss is just such a talent, like Michael and Megan and Bridget and Dan and his colleagues. He's just such a talent. So 4 o'clock today, random offense with Ethan Strauss. Again, some of you know Ethan, some of you don't. He's incredible, and I'll show you a little bit of Ethan later in the program too when I run through. And then I'll be back at 6 o'clock tonight for a regular edition of Two Way tonight. So my point is, everyone, there are 3 more two ways you can join later today. All right, let's run through the schedule real quick. There's not much on it, and then we will Dan and Rick and I will kick things around, and then of course we'll take your questions and comments. Today, the President of the United States. I'm looking for his schedule. Just looking at the pool because I remember something caught my eye. Oh, okay, never mind. Signing executive orders at 1 p.m. Currently closed press, but as everybody knows, you never know. That could open up. Contrary to what we all thought yesterday, that the president would, of course, speak on camera about the tragic killings in Washington on Wednesday. As far as I know, he did not, and I would think he would today. So we'll see. And then he heads to Andrews at 3 o'clock, and he's going up to my neck of the woods here, Bedminster, and he will be at Bedminster at 4:30 at his club there, and presumably spending the nice weekend, although the weather's not supposed to be so great at Bedminster. And of course, he could talk on departure, could talk on arrival, could talk on the plane. The vice president at 10 o'clock, although some people are reporting it's at 9 o'clock, but at 10 o'clock, I believe, he's speaking at the Naval Academy's class of 2025 graduation ceremony. House and Senate are both out till the first week of June, and that's about it. So, a bunch of topics I want to get to, and I'm not sure what there is to say about the shooting. I continue to say, if you hear people on the left denounce this heinous act and denounce anti-Semitism, I think the right thing to do is to praise them and welcome them to that, rather than fly-spec their past statements. That's the thing I want to reinforce from yesterday. I feel so strongly about it. I heard commentary criticizing people on the left, and like Alex Soros is being criticized. Okay, now people say, well, he funds groups that in the belief of some are not helpful. I just welcome him criticizing this. What happened? So Dan and then Rick, just what a day later, what are your thoughts on where we are from a policy point of view or from a societal point of view as we learn more about both the two victims and about the accused?
I think, as you said, Mark, it was encouraging throughout the day yesterday that more Democrats spoke up in clear terms. I know there's some criticism of kind of, certain words were used or not used, but, I was concerned when we did this yesterday morning, and by lunchtime, certain prominent Democrats were silent, especially a few that were given opportunities by the press to say something who passed. But I think they clearly realized that silence was not going to be an option, which I agree with. And so, to your point, better late than never. We can quiver over, whether it could have, should have been stronger. But I don't know of any prominent Democrat who is still silent, and that's a good direction for the party to be headed in.
Rick.
I mean, look, I'm the former U.S. ambassador to Germany, and I learned one thing about being in Germany, which is this whole kind of hate, anti-Semitism is a real human problem. It's not a individual problem. And I get really uncomfortable talking about this as whether it's right wing or left wing. It's a real problem. And we have got to just confront the fact that whoever you are, somehow you could be trained to believe that Jews are the problem. And we've got to confront that early on. And I think there's a whole bunch of NGOs and programs that actually try to bring Arabs and Jews and Christians, everybody together. I mean, look, I'm a Christian, and I can't help but think, Father Abraham, who is the father of all three religions, is the person that we should be looking at and trying to unite us. I spent a lot of time in Detroit, I think, as a lot of people know, in this last election, organizing Arabs and Muslims. And I think we've got a lot of friends in that community who look at this situation and are horrified. So I hope that we can just all say that it's a human problem, it's an education problem. We've got to do better in every single community and not try to single out certain communities. I think everybody has a problem with this.
Yeah, amen. And this I totally agree with what you said. This strand of American leftist hatred of Jews is part of it, and it appears to be what's at issue here. So we'll keep talking about it.
But Mark, can I add one thing?
Yeah,
We saw that in particular happening when I think it was the Charlotte Convention for the Democrats. I mean, that to me, it exploded into the front, and I thought, okay, we have a real problem.
Yep.
But the right wing also has a problem with this, and so I don't want to just pretend like it's not a human problem. It is a human problem.
Yeah, we're going to play something from the musical comedian Tom Lehrer later, but he had a line in a song called National Brotherhood Week that said, "And everybody hates the Jews," and it's just Jews often use comedy to make light. Mel Brooks and the producers is a great example, but you're right, Rick. I think it's a very correct and profound way to say it. It is, for whatever reason, a human problem. All right. You look at tariffs and those who are worried that the president did permanent damage or didn't achieve much of anything with his on again, off again tariffs. I think he's gained leverage over the Chinese. I think he scared Xi, or at least braced Xi to see that if there's a trade war, China will pay a big price. And I think the U.S. is going to have more favorable trade terms with lots of countries. So I think it's possible that the president achieved a lot, even with what he did, using the threat of tariffs. And I think prices might go up, but they also may come back down, and there could be a lot of good stuff. The one thing that I don't think you could argue that the president achieved with the tariffs is onshoring, and Dan has made this point many times. Like, putting tariffs on it for 20 minutes and taking them off is not going to get a bunch of companies built in the United States. However, this morning, the president suggested that, in fact, he's still determined to get manufacturing in the United States, and not just manufacturing of like lawn chairs, but the most important product ever invented, the iPhone. After meeting with Tim Cook, or who he once called Tim Apple, in the White House earlier this week, the president went on Truth Social this morning and said this: have long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their iPhones that will be, is that an apostrophe S or that's just a little thing on my computer? Yeah, it is an apostrophe S. So that's a mistake. All right. That will be sold in the United States of America, will be manufactured and built in the United States, not India or any place else. If that is not the case, a tariff of at least 25% must be paid by Apple to the U.S. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, I could microanalyze this tweet. Amongst the things I would highlight, though, is the president, I thought, said the tariffs were paid by the other countries, not by the U.S. companies. So I don't know why he's now saying Apple would pay it. Rick, two-part question, violating my rule. I normally don't like two-part questions. Why do you think the president put this on Truth Social? And do you believe that it's possible, economically feasible, to make iPhones in the United States?
So first of all, the most important part of that tweet was thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yes, we all love that tag. We all love that tag. Yeah.
That signals here's your warning.
Yeah. 100%.
And so if Tim Cook is watching, you better be scrambling today because he's serious about this. Look, after COVID, Mark, we all said that we were going to have a united front. Democrats, Republicans, independents, everybody said we have to never be in this position again, where all of the PPE, all masks, testing, gear, sanitation, all of these things surrounding COVID were made in China. And we said we can never be in this position again. We all got to bring back manufacturing. We spent 4 years of the Biden administration not bringing back manufacturing, but making matters worse. And so Donald Trump is in this unique position to touch the third rail. And I don't think it's about the short-term prices. Yes, it's going to be painful in some areas, but overall, it's going to be so beneficial for us by bringing manufacturing back. Do you know that we don't even make clothing in America anymore? You can't find a manufacturing plant in America that makes simple Nike or any clothes. It's all made overseas. And so I don't buy this whole idea that somehow labor costs are so expensive that we can't do it here. Guess what we can do better than anybody else? Automate, technology. And so we can bring back the manufacturing through automation and technology and advancement. And so that's a very long answer to say, yes, we can make iPhones here. We've got to absolutely just force people to say that they're going to take all of the advancements that we can take when building anything and bring manufacturing back to the United States. And yes, it's short-term pain, but it is long-term gain. And somebody like President Trump, who's not running for re-election again, is able to do it because the politics is removed.
Dan, if you were the Washington lobbyist for Apple, what would you tell Tim Cook to do today?
Be quiet for starters here while you figure it out. I mean, look, this is not the first time Trump's taken a shot at him. He expressed his displeasure on camera. I think it was like 2 weeks ago when Apple quietly on a Friday night announced they were moving out of China to India, right? And he got wind of it. Look, I mean, the reality of this is, and I've said this before, a lot of companies in China, right, to the ambassador's point, there's a decoupling of manufacturing, US-based companies manufacturing China. The problem is most of them are not coming back to the United States. They are seeking alternative, lower cost solutions, such as India. And as Sean and I have talked about, India has a whole host of problems. If you were to bring the iPhone back, first off, I believe it would take probably 5 years to get all the different component manufacturing set up back in this country. And then there is the cost issue. Just on the surface, if you are paying someone 10 cents an hour versus $15 an hour, there's obviously a massive difference. I think he's getting ahead of this because most people have an iPhone and he knows prices are going to go up. And he is trying to get ahead of, it's his fault, not my fault, right? He's un-American. Don't blame me for what's happening. Look, the political challenge is, to be really blunt, Democrats aren't going to come out and say, no, it should remain in China. Like we defend, Indian manufacturing.
Right.
He's going to pay a price, but we're not going to be the ones necessarily to benefit because we're not going to advocate for the status quo.
All right. We could talk about this all hour, but I want to get through some other stuff. And again, we'll get to your questions. I know a lot of hands up already, but please, and particularly if you've never raised your hand before, join us. All right. Politico today, 107. a story, I say, just matter of factly, catching up to what I've been saying here. There's a lot going on between Bibi and Donald Trump right now. The Iran front, the Gaza front, the president's trip where he didn't go to Israel. And the Politico story leans a little harder than my reporting goes, but it's in the same direction. They say that there are blind quotes in there. I'm not sure who they're from, suggesting the administration's kind of really at odds with Bibi. And every American president I've ever covered has been at odds with Bibi. Bibi just doesn't kowtow to the United States, and he's very sophisticated. Dan, what's the status of the current Trump-Bibi personal relationship, and as it affects the policy choices?
Well, I think the issue is there's divergent goals happening. I think Bibi sees the Netanyahu and Israel sees their enemies in their weakest state they've been in generations, and they want to kind of finish the job, whether with Hamas, kind of deal with Iran, once and for all as they see it. Trump wants stability and he wants economic development in the region. I mean, like, these are his people. They're wealthy, they're transactional. He just was there. And I think he is really probably nervous that if Bibi tries to finish the job and war breaks out or this gets messy, we are going to get dragged in. And he loves to say, none of this happens on my watch. It's, strength, people fear me, like I'm the sheriff in town. And they've got different goals. I think they ultimately want this dealt with, but I don't think Trump wants to be a part of it.
Rick, before you answer, I know this will be hard for you, but because just your memory is human limited. Can you run through all the jobs you currently have in both the government and private sector, just so everybody knows where you're coming from?
What jobs I have?
Yeah, you have at least 3 that I know of, but what? Just list your current jobs, please.
I'm presidential envoy for special missions, which sounds so cool.
Yeah.
I love the title.
Yeah.
I didn't make it up.
Yeah. And are you paid for that, or that's a volunteer position?
Yeah, it's volunteer.
Okay, so that's one non-paid job.
And so that includes Venezuela, North Korea, the fires in California. I just got handed a new job, which I will not say yet.
Foreign or domestic?
It's actually both.
Both. I hope you become special envoy to two-way. That'd be another one I'd like to add. All right.
And then I'm the president of the Kennedy Center.
Is that paid or unpaid?
That's paid. I have to be paid because of the statues of the Kennedy Center, actually.
Right. Okay. And I'm sorry. You say hopefully? Did you say hopefully there?
Hopefully, I'm not there very long. It wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're
I'm making the necessary changes that need to be made.
Okay, we're going to talk about the Kennedy Center in a second. Before we do that, when will your new special mission be announced? I know you won't tell us today, but will that be announced soon?
We'll see. I don't know.
Okay, and then you have private sector work as well, right?
Yeah. I'm in the private sector. I'm just a special government employee.
So mostly, you're as I've read, you and I haven't talked about it lately, but you're doing a lot of business development of real estate property type things in Eastern Europe, right? And Asia.
So I'm working for private equity firms and bringing ideas and vetting ideas, and there's a variety of things. Yes,
and I know some Eastern. Are any in the Middle East, or all your stuff's now Eastern Europe?
It's a little bit going into the Middle East, but mostly Eastern Europe.
Right. All right. So
nothing. By the way, I'm super aggressive. Just to be clear, since I handle Venezuela and North Korea, nothing touches those at all.
I'd love to see you build a Ritz-Carlton in North Korea someday, but not. All right. So with that background,
Ritz-Carlton. What about a Trump hotel?
Or a Trump hotel. Oh. With that background, Trump stayed in the Ritz in Saudi. With that background, so again, Rick works with the president. What's your sense of the status of Israeli, U.S. and the Bibi Donald Trump relationships?
One of the things that I love about President Trump when it comes to world leaders' personality is that he really does focus on issues, not on individuals and whether or not, if he likes them personally, he doesn't give them a buy on every single issue. He's willing to actually tackle individual leaders when necessary. And I just put forward Erdogan is in that category. He compliments Erdogan. He's close to Erdogan, but he'll criticize Erdogan. And the whole Pastor Brunson thing was a fiasco. And the president was super strong and said, I will ruin your economy if you don't return Pastor Brunson. And this is what he's saying to a friend. And so I like the fact that he's nuanced on all of this stuff, focused on policy. With that said, I think we've had some difficult policy issues with the Israelis, whether it's Huawei, whether it's the ports in Syria, whether it is Gaza, the more known things, which is Gaza or Iran. We've had difficult issues when it comes to intelligence issues. I won't go too far into that. But we don't always agree eye to eye with the government of Israel. And President Trump sees this on a daily basis, that we have policy differences. And I think that's okay. They're a sovereign country, we're a sovereign country, and we get to have close relationship with our friends, just like the UK, but it's very nuanced. So when it comes to Bibi, I'll just say that the president has a very nuanced. Sometimes he's very unhappy with the policies that Bibi's pushing and not listening to the United States. And other times he understands him and says, hey, let's work together on this.
Can we throw Fox up as quick as possible? Because Scott Bessent is surprisingly on, and I think he's talking about Apple.
The White House this week. Did that conversation not go well?
Again, I wasn't in on that conversation. I also saw 10 this week. So, again, the president is trying to bring back precision manufacturing to the U.S. And, I think that one of our greatest vulnerabilities, are this external production, especially in semiconductors, and a large part of Apple's components are in semiconductors. So we would like to have Apple help us make the semiconductor supply chain more secure.
What I found interesting in Saudi Arabia last week was that the president called out Tim Cook for not being there. Now, you know that high technology companies, it takes time to move those production facilities. What's realistic for Apple?
Again, I don't know from company to company, so we'll have to see. I do think that Apple started moving a big portion of their supply chain out of China during COVID, when China proved to be an unreliable partner.
Okay, so we'll see where that goes, and waiting a reply perhaps from Tim Cook, and maybe that comes today. On the big, beautiful bill, it passed in the House, but it only passed by a single vote. And some suggest that now's the hard part. Here's Senator Ron Johnson out of Wisconsin.
All right, we'll keep monitoring this.
I've already said it in its current state.
Take it down, Paul. Just let us know if anything happens, and we'll cut it. We'll cut a soundbite if we see something. All right, we'll move on from Israel. Even though I'd like to stay there, because again, I want to get through two more topics. And then to your questions after we do winners and losers. So please raise your hand.
Can I say something about my friend Scott Bessent?
Besides the fact that he's a stud, sure.
He's just so amazing. I mean, we're so lucky to have somebody like him that steps up and does this. Yeah. He's smart. He's authentic about it. I think that he's really an amazing cabinet secretary.
Yeah, everyone I talk to in the world of both finance and the real economy are just extremely glad he's there. I will say I've caught on to his little trick of when he's asked about something he doesn't answer. He says, "Well, I wasn't in the meeting," as if like he couldn't know what happened in the meeting. And like during
hey, in Trump world, you got to be in the meeting, otherwise you won't know the latest nuance.
No, it's true. But like during the question of whether the president had spoken to Xi. Scott would say, well, I'm not the White House switchboard operator. Factually true, but not really responsive, because I'm sure he knew whether the president had talked to Xi or not. All right. The Kennedy Center, as Rick just said. Rick, are you a song and dance man? Are you a man of the arts?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah?
I love
okay. So here's Rick Grinnell recently at the White House talking about his temporary role, running the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts.
We announced our program today, which is literally shocking the media, because they're saying, okay, this is pretty good. We're not getting criticized for the programming, because guess what, Mr. President? When you pick programs that are popular with the public, they respond. People buy tickets. it is popular when you do programming for the masses.
So it says it was a dinner, and it clearly was, because I heard a lot of forks and knives scraping in the background, which is good that they were comfortable enough with you, Rick, that they kept eating while you were talking. So you're getting rid of the rats, the literal rats, like there are rats in that building, and there's some infrastructure things. You're changing some of the programs to move them more in line with your conception of what will be popular, but also not super woke. You stop me if I'm saying anything incorrect. What will the Kennedy Center look like? Not the physical space, but what will the programming look like once your project is complete?
Well, we just launched our new season for next year, and that's what I was referring to, is that the launch of the new season had zero controversies with it. I have to say, I don't think we got a single negative press article on this week's launch of what we're doing in next year's programming. Whether it's Broadway, whether it's opera. I mean, we're bringing Stuttgart Ballet, we're bringing the Vienna Philharmonic. We've got Mrs. Doubtfire coming from Broadway. We've got really big, huge programs that are popular. And look, I have to be honest with you. The last Kennedy Center administration, what we just found, and we're going to turn over to DOJ and the FBI for an investigation. They just found our forensic new CFO went through the books for 24 and 25. We found $26 million in phantom revenue. It was literally they were lying to the board.
As an open, what's the overall budget? Like 26 million of what?
Well, the whole budget is roughly like 200 million if you count pretty much everything.
Annual.
Yeah. And so the problem that we have with $26 million in phantom revenue is they were telling the board that we had this revenue. We're going to release all of the details to the FBI and to DOJ to look at this because it's fraud. They were literally lying about how the finances were. And let me just finish with this. For the last 9 months, well before we got there, we have been paying the staff at the Kennedy Center through debt reserves. Now, what that means is that in 2030, we have a huge balloon payment, and we've been saving money every year and paying it down a little bit to make this big balloon payment in 2030. They started digging into that in order to pay salaries. We had 90 people in the development office, and they raised $90 million last year. That is a pathetic draw for an institution like the Kennedy Center. So we've gone through every single department and changed it. We can't be having programming that is so fringe that no one shows up, especially when you don't have a budget. And I'll finish with this, Mark. My partner and I really like I would call niche programming. We like things that not a lot of people like. We go, as you know, my partner was on Broadway for many years. And so we like to go and I believe in arts education. I believe that we should push the limits for the audience to understand arts, and you can educate people through arts. You can't do that when you're woefully in debt and you're deficit spending. And so we need to have arts institutions that are on financial footing. And we already are on our way. We announced King of Kings, which is an animated movie. It's sold out in like 2 or 3 days. We had to add another program for that. We're bringing in Dolly Parton's Threads, which is overwhelmingly going well. We're bringing in Les Mis, which starts June 11th for like 3 weeks. Tickets are almost sold out. It's really going well. When you bring in common sense programming, then you can also do arts education later when you get a little money. I'm not looking to make money. I'm looking to make sure we don't lose money and lie to the board about where we are with our finances.
So I've done no reporting on this. I've read that the people who you're saying committed skullduggery have denied it. I just put that on the record. I don't know the facts, but
so what she did is she lied again. Deborah Rutter lied again to the media when she said, no, we have $10 million in extra funding. She renamed the debt financing to a different account, which this is all going to come out. She's calling it a different account, but she literally was digging into debt reserves for our balloon payment, and she's calling it saying, "Oh, we had 10 million." That was money was supposed to be saved until we get to 2030. We were on a path to pay it down little by little to be able to make this payment. We're woefully behind because she renamed it and pretended like she had a new account of sustainability. That's what she called it. It's
well,
it's a total fraud,
yeah.
and people need to be prosecuted for it.
The truth will out. Dan, anything you want to say about the Kennedy Center?
No, just
we look forward to seeing the shows, Rick. And I know you don't. I know you want it to be temporary, but I'm hoping you stay a long time because I look forward to watching you rebuild it. It's a great facility, and it's
Great
important that
institution.
the nation's capital have a vibrant arts thing. And if again, I just don't know the facts. I'm not saying you're wrong, but if they really only raised 90 million, that's absurd. I mean, it's just absurd. You get one rich person to write a big check.
isn't that what David Rubenstein did?
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't write a bigger. He should have been. He should have been
bought
given
the
more than
Orioles.
90.
He was busy getting
Yeah.
into baseball.
All right, I'm going to drop a couple topics because I want to get to your questions. So let's just do winners and losers and what to look for. Dan, winner of the week.
I'm going to say Speaker Johnson. He got the bill through. Like
Yeah.
he deserves credit for that.
Rick.
Joe St. Clair, a young man who has been returned from a Venezuelan prison.
Yes, and you played a little bit of a role in that. So where is he now?
He's in a facility in San Antonio where we bring hostages, kind of debrief, get some health care,
Right.
And go through a debriefing and readjustment.
All right. I knew Dan was going to say Speaker Johnson because I have like a spidey sense about Dan. So I'm going with the Johnson-Trump-Thune relationship. That's the thing that we saw in sharp relief this week. Those three guys and their teams are really game this out, and that's why we're all so confident that things going to pass. Dan, loser of the week.
I almost, by the way, Mark said Salt Caucus, but I knew you'd get upset if I said it. Victor's.
Infuriated.
On the other side of that, my loser of the week, the Freedom Caucus, they got rolled, and it was comical yesterday to hear some of them say, when the bill comes back from the Senate, we're really going to have red lines now, as if they're really going to go toe to toe with them. It's been a rough week. It's not their party anymore. It's Trump's party.
Yeah. Rick.
Jake Tapper. I think he's been outed as the world's biggest fake, literally selfishly writing a book that he was participating in the cover up. And you just pull any old clip and you can see it. I think his reputation has taken a huge hit.
I will say, it's along the same lines, I'll say my colleagues in the media who remain in denial about their role in the cover-up and pretending they can just accuse the Biden administration and Democratic politicians for driving it without acknowledging their own role. We are at a moment where we could try to regain some credibility by coming clean, and instead they're all pretending they had nothing to do with it. It's the subject of my monologue on Next Up. I won't do the whole thing here again, but I'll just say it's like if you have a profession that had its largest systematic failure in its history, and then it's exposed as if it weren't clear, even though it was clear in real time to most of us in America, and it's exposed in such sharp relief, and you continue to deny your role, you're asking to not have your credibility back. You're asking to make it worse. Dan, what are you watching for this weekend?
Well, by the way, at the same time, your audience is rapidly declining. And, and you don't have half the country, as you made on your show. What am I watching for? Quiet. Or we have a slow news weekend. It has been an unbelievable few weeks. It's the holiday. So I'm hoping that the next 3 days are somewhat slow.
Okay. Rick, this weekend, what are you watching for?
I'm watching for Republican senators' comments on the budget. It's going to be very interesting to see how we go through this week. They're not in session next week, so they'll begin to do interviews back home. And let's see what they begin to say and how much of a change are they going to make on the Senate side of the budget.
All right. Let me tell you the difference between me and Dan. The Knicks lose game one, and Dan says the series is over. They can't possibly win. I am more optimistic. New York City needs an NBA championship. It's ridiculous. 50 years is long enough. So I'm looking forward to the Knicks winning game 2 tonight, back in the driver's seat after they win game 3 in Indianapolis. There you go.
I like that.
Yeah, there you go. Bring in everybody for questions. If you get called on, please unmute yourself. Tell us what's on your mind and where you are. And here we go to a man who lives in so many places. I'm not sure where he is right now. David Bonson. David, thank you for coming back. Welcome in. What's on your mind, sir?
How's the bond market, David?
Lost the camera.
We did lose the camera.
Yeah,
He can do it as radio.
Baltic radio, yeah.
All right, I'm trying to fit. There we go. I don't know what happened. All right. First of all, I'm here in New York, Mark, and the Knicks are going to win tonight, and we are going to fight through this. And second of all, the losers of the week are almost everybody, because everything you guys covered in terms of the Freedom Caucus getting rolled on that bill, obviously the media, all these things we talked about with Jake Tapper, but then now the events of this morning are fascinating to me. First of all, the president is losing control of this narrative. Nobody believes that he can get Apple to onshore manufacturing, because he can't and they can't, and it is not going to happen. And for market conservatives like myself and those that support so much of the president's agenda, to sit here and to pretend that this is going to happen is the worst thing we could be doing as a party politically in terms of setting the expectation. The little tantrum of a 50% threat of tariffs on EU will maybe last for a couple of days. Markets won't like it. But we're at a point now where there's a diminishing return on this tactic, and everybody wants to see better deals negotiated. I mean, Mark, you said you just believe ultimately we're going to get deals with other countries that open new markets and have some better terms. And I tend to think that's true, albeit with some combination of substantive deals and cosmetic deals. But this tactic right now and the disruption along the way, I just don't think anybody seems to understand, besides Secretary Bessent, how much damage it's doing to real small businesses. That can't be put back in the bottle on the other side next time a tweet comes saying, okay, never mind, I was just kidding. This tactic, I think, has lost its efficacy for the president.
I totally agree.
David, thank you. Dan agrees. How about Richard Grinnell, ambassador?
Well, I mean, can I just add, though,
of course,
the reason I agree, because we didn't talk about the tweet this morning, kind of as David references, lashing out at Europe. I think the big problem is none of these countries that are on this, target list think he will go back to these super high tariffs. They all think, and he did, he blinked, he wants out of them. He's trying to find a way to get victory. And they're saying it's mutually assured destruction, pal. You're never going to put all these things back on for 6 months to break us, because you're going to break your own economy, and the bond market's hemorrhaging already, again, for the third time now. And
Dan, can I say something about that? Why do people keep saying the bond market is breaking at 4.5%?
Didn't it hit 5.1 with the
the 20-year hit 5.1 for about 3 seconds when they were literally filling an auction. But right now, if you were growing the economy at 3% net of inflation, and you had inflation of 1.5%, you'd have a 10-year bond yield at 4.5%, which is exactly where it is.
But do you think inflation is going to stay there, though?
I think inflation will get down to 2%, and I think that real growth is going to struggle to get to 3%. Yep. So we should want a bond yield of 4.5%. Why do people want a bond yield that indicates permanent low growth? That's not what we want.
I agree. I mean, the other thing is, I keep hearing from people on the street that we socialize with that foreign investors are rethinking the U.S. bond market, my answer is always, really? Because what better investment is there around the world to buy bonds? And they keep saying, you don't understand. There is a permanent kind of reevaluation going on, that if it isn't this year, it's in the next few years. It's not my world. I mean, I keep arguing with them. That sounds crazy to me, but every single person keeps saying, Dan, you're wrong. So,
Ambassador Professor Grinnell.
Look, I think what Dan and David are focused on is, kind of arguing over stats and math. Really, it glazes over everybody. And I'm a Harvard grad. Let me just tell you that I don't think that any of this matters. I think that it's about the street. I think it's about people who want to go on Amazon and not have every single product coming to their house from China. They get the product, it doesn't work. They wasted their money, and they're furious about it. And so we have to do something that's more practical. Is it going to be a math problem for Dan and David in the short term? Probably. But I think at the end of the day, what President Trump is focused on is regular people bringing back a sense of fair trade. And let me just give you an example. I'm a Europe expert, and I think that the comments here about Europe are flat wrong. The German automakers and all of the automakers throughout Europe, but it's really just about the German automakers because they're the biggest. They charge a 10% tariff on America. America charges 2.5%. 10 and 2.5. This has been going on for decades. And when the Europeans scream and moan about, oh, you're threatening us with tariffs and you're not treating your allies very well, I have said to Chancellor Merkel, I've said to the Europeans a million times, you think we're not treating you well? You have an incredibly higher tariff on our cars. You don't see our cars in Europe because 10 and 2.5% is monumental. Now, I'll finish.
Rick, I'm sorry, but there is absolutely no way that anybody believes that the reason that we don't have our cars in Germany is because of that tariff. They don't want our cars, and we do want their cars. And no conservative like you and me believes that we need a central planner to determine what is a fair price. I think 10 and 2 is unfair, and you think it's unfair. But we can solve that with the price mechanism, which is what we believe in doing.
No, you can't solve that, David, with the price mechanism.
But then you don't solve it with 50. You don't solve it with 50 either. But here's the thing, Rick. It's so important. When you're talking about the common man going on Amazon, the common man is not going to Amazon and looking at where the product's made. But even if they were, and even if we're trying to do something to onshore, okay, but they're also not going to buy an iPhone for $3,500. It's just not going to happen. And so there's a mix
I'm not
here.
arguing, David. I am not arguing for $3,500 phones. So don't put words in my mouth. Let me just.
No, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm putting the implication of that. That's all.
When South Carolina BMW makes the X3 or the X5, whatever they make, they buy all of the engine products in Europe. They assemble it in Europe. They send it to South Carolina, and they just put it together in South Carolina. And they take advantage of us by saying, "Oh, we don't have this big, huge tariff because now it's made in America." Okay, what Donald Trump said. And I was one of the leaders as the U.S. ambassador to Germany on this, is we're going to dig into this engine. We want to know where you're buying the parts. It's called localization. And we demanded that they do 73% of that engine made in American manufacturing plants. No longer are you going to buy the little bolt in Switzerland. You're going to buy it in Ohio. We did that. Donald Trump is focused on the details of an engine. You can never convince me that when we tell BMW and Daimler and Volkswagen that you must buy from American companies to put that engine together in order to pretend like it's made in America, that benefits Ohio jobs, Michigan jobs. Getting into the details on this is much better than just the Wall Street guys talking about a 3% whatever growth. We don't really care what that conversation is about. We are going to dig in.
Apparently the president does, Rick.
America.
Apparently your boss does care about that conversation.
I'll say two things. And David, grateful to you for coming on and appreciate the spirited conversation. First of all, I may be wrong, and this don't let this lead to another 10-minute conversation because I want to get somebody else in. But I don't think we know if Europeans want to buy American cars because they haven't had the opportunity to. They might want them. We're great marketers. We build great cars. They're just I just don't think it's fair to say they don't want them.
The number one vehicle in America sold. Do you know what it is?
Ford F-150.
Ford F-150, number one.
Yeah.
And it's not sold in Europe. You never see it anywhere.
Yeah.
The number one car in America is not even going around the European streets.
I guarantee you some Europeans would like to buy that vehicle. It's a beautiful American miracle, and they'd like to buy it, and they're not, and they can't. It's just not economically on offer. The other thing I'll say, and David, you and I talk about this all the time. I know that you and Larry Summers and Larry Lindsay and other people will say we can't have 3.5% growth. We must. We must. I know you don't think it's possible, but we must. So.
I definitely think it's possible.
I just thought you said we couldn't.
a 3.5% real growth, it would take an incredible pro-growth agenda, and it would take constraining the growth of government and bringing. But I don't think there's the political will to get there. But I certainly believe economically it's doable.
All right. Well, I think we have to have it. Whatever it takes.
The one other thing, though, that we need to say when we talk about requiring everything to be manufactured here is, as a lobbyist who dealt with a lot of countries in Asia and other places trying to get their markets open to us, this is one of the huge non-tariff barriers that our companies face around the world, which is the Indians and everyone else says 50.1% has to be here. The employees have to be here. Your board has to be here. And by the way, it's the premier's cousin who was on the board, who then 2 years later has a knockoff with half the IP they stole. Like, Rick, when we set this up, the rest of the world is going to turn around and do the same thing. And we're 4% of the world's population. And a lot of our companies get a lot of their revenue overseas. That is what makes me nervous as we start trying to say everything here.
If you could see the number of countries that are scrambling to come and invest here, I mean, look at how many people around the world are talking about their investments in America. It's massive. What Donald Trump is doing, it is massive. This is going to be 10 to 20 years of investment, manufacturing. This is working. Absolutely. We just got to give it some time to prove.
Right. But we'll see.
Reality is we're going to have hundreds of millions, trillions of dollars pouring into America manufacturing.
Mark, I'll jump off. I'll jump off and let you go to someone else. My 10-second closing is, Rick, because you're so right about the granular things you're saying on your one example with Germany, it makes it all the worse the way the president did it. Because if the tariff inequity that you describe as the issue, then why in the world did he target Cambodia and target Switzerland and target other countries that have lower tariffs, with trade surplus with UK, all of these other examples? It's so incoherent. If we're focusing on real reciprocity, then we need to focus on that. And the way in which he did it took our eye off the ball of the very example you used. So I just think that
your criteria,
they have to be.
David, your criteria is too limited because there's currency manipulation and there's a whole bunch of other things. It's not just the numbers that you're looking at in terms of tariffs.
You think there's currency manipulation between the European
That's only one
Union
example, David. There's a whole bunch of issues that we have when we look at Cambodia, when we look at issues that other countries are doing. It's not just what they're doing to us when it comes to tariffs or currency manipulations. Those are two. There's a whole bunch of other. Look at their votes in the WTO. How are they opening up? Are they being transparent? Are their currencies actually being honest about what they're doing on a daily basis? This is a score.
Is ours?
The State Department does, the UN does. This is about transparency.
All right. Two last things, David. Thank you. Number one, by total coincidence, tonight's episode of Two Way Tonight, the entire hour is already being devoted to the question of Cambodian currency manipulation. So please join us for that. David, please close with 3 last words. You know the words I'm thinking. 3 last words.
Peace, love, and understanding.
No.
Let's go Knicks.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Great to see you. All right. I'm gonna do an audible here and bring in 3 of you because I want to get some more people in. So here's Barry from Washington State, and then 2 people participating in our unannounced Bring Your Kid to two-way event. Kenneth, did you not have a kid with you previously? I thought you did. Yeah. All right. There's Mike and Kenneth, both with their kids. Kenneth's gonna get his kid. Mike, who do you have? Mike, who do you got with you, Mike?
I have Oliver here. He's recovering from a bicycle accident, so he's home from school today.
Oliver, I had a bicycle accident when I was about your age too. You look like you're doing great though, and not having to go to school. Mixed bag. Kenneth, who do you have there?
I have Kaden right here, and Chloe was my plugger. Oh, here she is.
All right, ladies, welcome in. You guys know Oliver? Probably not. Oliver, you know those girls? No, probably not. All right, stand by. We're going to Barry first. Barry, welcome in.
Hi. I would bring my kid on, but he's 31 and 6'5", and that would look a little weird. So
wouldn't fit in the frame. Barry, what's on your mind from Washington State?
2 things I wanted to say about the previous conversation.
Yes,
Ford
ma'am.
F-150 trucks, they couldn't afford the gas. There's no way that they would ever drive those in Europe. Second, I do look when I shop on Amazon. I do not buy anything made in China. No skincare products, no clothing.
Because of the quality, or because you want to help the Chinese?
Because of the no, because of the quality. I don't buy supplements that come from China because they're crap. They're crap.
Yeah. Just as quickly, if our friends from WIC, our polling partners, are on here, we got to do a big poll on this question. I'm totally fascinated of people's attitude towards buying products from China, because Barry and Rick have a point of view that I've not heard put in as sharp relief.
I want Amazon to give us one click, made in America only, so I don't have to go through it.
Thank you.
Yeah, the question should be, do you look at the country of origin of the products you buy?
I definitely do.
Barry, before your second point,
Okay.
Mike, do you buy products from China? Do you care about that?
I do buy some products from China, but as little as possible. I have a small business, and I do my best to get made in America stuff.
Interesting. Kenneth, do you buy products from China with impunity, or do you try not to?
I'm guilty.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
What about your wife, Kenneth?
All the time. Temu, everything. Unfortunately, there is a convenience and a sense of ease and cheapness of all that. But I'm not opposed to changing that dynamic.
Yeah, and I return all those things because I get them and I look at them and they're either not what that was pictured. Anyway, what I wanted to
100%.
ask, especially Rick, I'm so honored to be able to talk to you. This is like thrill. So what I want to ask is, looking at the issue with Biden and also looking at issues with COVID as sort of a backdrop, how does the administration decide how much attention, time, and resources to put to relitigating the past and this limited amount of time to make progress towards the future?
Yeah. Great question, Barry. I mean, really great question. And I think we think about it all the time when you're bringing things forward. I think people know, my BFF is Kash Patel. And I think he's thinking about these issues all the time, trying to take the resources of the FBI to figure out how do you investigate. And I think the answer for every single person is a little bit different, but I think the answer is you look at kind of the problem, right? And you say, is this still an ongoing problem? Does the public still have a concern about this that we need to solve? I actually think, I was DNI during COVID. And when I look at these issues, I'm super sensitive to what the public is thinking. And I want them to believe in their government more. And so therefore, transparency, which is not political, transparency is a amazing thing, because when you give people the facts and you let the chips fall where they may, and maybe the government messed up, maybe somebody lied, maybe somebody did something that was unethical, I think you just got to own it and let the public see. We're a very forgiving society if somebody says, oh gosh, I screwed up. But that's much different than a cover-up and an ongoing cover-up. And I would throw Adam Schiff in there as somebody who constantly is covering up and constantly coming up with some new excuse. And so it's a long answer to say, Barry, I think that everybody is different, but you have to look at the current situation and say, is this just about the past, or is this still an ongoing issue of credibility for the government and maybe justice? We all got to kind of find that middle ground, the equilibrium between justice and mercy. But at the end of the day, I think it's a difficult issue that we have to think about constantly. And we probably don't always get it right, but I know Kash is trying really hard.
Great, thank you.
Barry, I know you're right about their higher gas prices, but I think a lot of Europeans would just park that beautiful vehicle in their front driveway just to have it as a status symbol.
You get the Autobahn.
They don't have driveways.
Park it on the street, whatever. They park it. They have some driveways. I've seen German driveways. Barry, thank you. Grateful to you. Kenneth, real quick, because we got a bunch of other stuff we need to get to. Tell us where you are, what's on your mind.
Yeah, I wanted to echo what Barry said. It's really cool to be able to speak with you, Rick. I'm not Jewish, nor am I Israeli, but I am very concerned as a lifelong conservative of what seems to be a changing landscape. If you look at some of the Tuckers and some of the other prominent conservative voices, there seems to be a shift in and just kind of our outlook towards our biggest partners in the Middle East. And it's a very, very generalized statement, but I just kind of wanted to get your take on what you think the ultimate play here is in what seems to be a really big culture and shift overall.
Yeah. Before Rick answers, let me just say there's two things, and there's a little bit, unfortunately, of an overlap. There's people who have a view fueled by MAGA to say we need to rethink everything, and maybe the U.S.-Israeli relationship needs some adjustment, just a genuine policy dispute. And then there's some both explicit and insidious anti-Semitism and anti-Israel feeling, and I think it's important to keep those two strands as separate as we can and call out, embrace the intellectual honesty of the first and call out the horribleness of the second. Rick,
can I just put a pin on that really fit? The underlying thing of where I'm coming from with that is Iran is my biggest fear, and they chant death to America as a political gathering, and so the fact that we would even have good faith negotiations with them, I find very, very hard to even comprehend.
Understood. And the Israelis agree with you, or at least a lot of them do. Rick, real quick, if you can.
Oh, I don't know if I can be real quick.
Middle East peace, Rick. Just be quick about it.
I mean, Kenneth's question is so intellectually honest and so good. We could do a whole thing on this.
We could.
The shifting landscape. I mean, look, I've gone through this shifting landscape. I spent 8 years at the UN, inside the UN Security Council. Iran lies. Yes, they lied about heavy water. They lied about number of centrifuges. But I do think that we need to get to the point where we do question ourselves. I think the Iraq War was a mistake. I think we've got to be able to say, honestly, critiques of our policy. And I'll just finish with this, and maybe it's not enough, but maybe you can read into it. I've been in tens of thousands of diplomatic one-on-ones, diplomatic meetings. I've never been in one where the other side doesn't ask America to do something, but when America asks them to do something, it's leaked out that we're being a bully. And so all I would say is that we need to be able to put ourselves first. Everybody else puts themselves first. And what that means is with a country like Saudi Arabia or Venezuela or anything, we've got to think about ourselves first. It's not our job to do regime change and try to fix another country. We have a $36 trillion national debt. We've been doing too much of that. We need to start putting ourselves first. What's best for America? How do we make America better, stronger, faster? The whole gamut. And I think we need to get to the point where we don't apologize for that. I don't think, Kenneth, I answered your question in great detail, but I wish I had more time.
Yeah. Thank you, Kenneth.
But if somebody will share with me Kenneth's information.
Yeah. All right, Kenneth, put it in the chat or direct it right to Rick, and that's very nice of you, Rick, to offer. All right, I need to tell you about a bunch of stuff, and you won't be able to keep it all in your head. So check my Substack because there's a lot going on too. I teased it at the top. First of all, 4 p.m. today, the premiere of Ethan Strach's show. I want to show you a preview that Ethan put together so you get a sense of Ethan and his show and how extraordinary it's going to be. Please roll that.
Hi, I'm Ethan Strauss, and welcome to Random Offense, my new interactive show on two-way TV, tackling the cultural flashpoints that spark debate across the sports world.
The politics thing is an interesting one.
We have to have an argument about Tyreek Hill's legacy every single week.
We invite you to dig deeper, challenge assumptions, and join a conversation that traditional sports media rarely dares to have.
Like, there's no difference between people who don't care about you and people who hate you.
The future of the business doesn't look particularly promising.
Random Offense builds on my experience with ESPN and The Athletic, serving as a springboard, a step forward, and an evolution in how we engage with sports culture.
One of the things that kind of bothers me about the NBA is the obsession with who's sitting courtside.
We commit to thoughtful honesty, covering the fun, the daily dust-ups, and the deeper issues legacy media won't touch. Don't just take my word for it, though. Here's Bob Costas.
You and I have never met in person. The only reason I sought you out was that you stand out.
Random Offense is like nothing I've done before because you can join the show. Catch the show live Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern / 1 p.m. Pacific or watch anytime you like after that on YouTube and two-way. Subscribe early and ring the bell so you never miss a moment.
Again, 4 p.m. today. I could listen to Ethan read the phone book, but he won't be reading the phone book. He's one of the best sports writers in America, but he's so thoughtful. And this concept of talking about sports in the context of politics, culture, society, it's going to be amazing. So 4 o'clock today, promo graphic, please. Ethan's guest, Bomani Jones, Mike Pesca. Again, you can watch it. You go to twoway.tv. You can join the conversation, as some of you are here today on the Two-Way platform. Be part of the conversation. You can also watch it stream live on YouTube and on X. So that's 4 p.m. today. 2 p.m. today. Special Two-Way tonight, not streaming live on YouTube. If you want to be part of the conversation, part of our series to get ahead of everybody else and talking about 2028 presidential campaign. Incredible guests. Thank you, my colleagues, for bringing them in. Amy Parnes, Jonathan Allen, Naomi Constant, Alex Castellanos. We're just going to talk about the whole 2028 thing, what's going on with J.D. Vance, what's going on with Rubio, and on the Democratic side, what's going on with 48 people. So join us at 2 o'clock today. Again, if you want to be part of that, go to my Substack coming out in a little bit. And warning our affiliates, we're running a little bit over. Sorry. So that's 2 o'clock. Then it's 6 o'clock tonight, regular episode of Two-Way Tonight. And the guests there are Ryan Gerdusky, Adam Edelman, and J.C. Glick. And we'll talk a lot about what's going on in the Middle East. So please join us in all the day's news and politics. A little bit more for you. Monday, there is no morning meeting. And I know a lot of you will say, how dare you? We're entitled to a morning meeting every Monday through Friday. It's a holiday. So there's no morning meeting on Monday. And Monday night, Two-Way Tonight will be on YouTube. It'll be the 2028 discussion we're having today. Finally, if you haven't yet watched any episodes or the current episode of my show on the Megyn Kelly Network, Next Up, I urge you to watch this week. It's available now. Dan, you've watched it pretty good, right?
I did. I listened to it last night. I listened to it to calm my head down.
Yeah. So Megyn Kelly, whose network I appear on, joined me as my guest. We talked about her Jake Tapper interview, what she thought she could have done better, what she thought Jake did not do well, and also her impression of Gene Wilder you won't want to miss. And I asked her what makes a good TV producer, and you'll be interested in that. Then Tom Cotton, senator from Arkansas, and I talk about foreign policy, talk about the Middle East, and also talk about the trajectory of woke and whether woke is defeated or in decline or possibly coming back. And then my monologue on what I said before on the media missing this moment to come clean, not just on the Biden acuity issue, but the bias that they've shown over decades, which has hurt their credibility. And as Dan said, is also hurting their chances of economic survival. That's a lot, but please tune in for all of it. And you can watch Next Up on YouTube, or you can listen to it as a podcast. Please do that. If you want to support my work, I'd urge you to do that. Rick, thank you for being here. How was your hour?
It was great. I just have to say, I was reading the comments. Vincent, you're exactly right. In my mind, I was thinking it's not $36 trillion national debt. It's 37 now. That just happened. Thank you for the correction.
Okay. Never read the comments, Rick. That's my advice. We're very grateful to you for making time, and for Larry and Mercedes for joining us this week in Sean's absence. As far as I know, Sean will be back on Tuesday. Again, we're not on Monday. Sean will be back on Tuesday, but we're very grateful to you, Rick, for making time for us.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. And Dan's program premieres next week, 4 p.m. on Thursdays.
Yes, Thursday. Yep. Here we go.
And we'll have more to say about that next week as well. Thank you all for watching. I will see some of you at 2 o'clock Eastern to talk about 2028, and all of you at 6 o'clock Eastern on YouTube, X, and Two-Way for our regular episode of Two-Way Tonight. Thank you very much. Let's all conclude with 3 solemn words.
Let's go
Knicks. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Rick.